name is Zara Tarter, and I'm here to speak to you about problem solving through perspective change. Now, there's an old folk tale about three blind men who had never been introduced to an elephant before. When they were introduced, a little while afterwards, each man was asked to describe the elephant. The first one said it was long and thin like a snake. The second, large and circular like a giant disc. And the last one, short and stumpy, much like the trunk of a tree. And while each of these men failed to fully describe the elephant, because each of these men failed to fully experience the elephant, they needed to see the elephant, or rather experience the elephant, from all different angles, because when you change the way you look at something, the thing you're looking at might change. Now, what happens when you try to solve a problem? You look at it, you talk about it, you try to figure it out based on what you know and what you've experienced in the past. And sometimes this works, but sometimes it doesn't. Because when you look at the same problem the same way, you'll end up with the same incorrect solution. To find a new answer to an old problem, you need to use a new method. Whenever I have a problem, I try to change my perspective of it. This could mean refining language, using visuals, or simply taking a break and coming back to it afterwards. These are all ways to expand the limitation of your innovation and creativity. However, I could stand up here all night and try to convince you that problem solving through perspective change is how you need to live your life, but that doesn't make it true. But believe it or not, there is a science behind problem solving through perspective change. And based on an article by Stuart Silverstein, and according to Jonah Lahir's book, Imagine, the aha moment is when the brain makes an association between two old and new ideas or experiences. When your brain is faced with a puzzle, it runs through all the obvious and usual solutions, engaging the part of the brain that most people believe to be the left hemisphere. However, when you run through these solutions and none of them prove sufficient enough, your brain needs to access the right hemisphere, the part of the brain that can make these connections. The wall is the left brain's inability to make connections between old and new ideas and concepts, which is when you need to engage the right brain. There are multiple ways to engage the right brain and gain new perspectives and experiences. You could try using pictures. The right brain often runs by images, and so by using pictures, you're automatically engaging the right brain. You could try refining your language. Language is incredibly powerful and important, so it's crucial that you're using the most efficient language possible. You could try analyzing something new. When you're too focused on a problem, sometimes you need to take a break and gain a new experience or give your mind some rest to come back to it. Or you could zoom out to the next largest context. Sometimes we're so focused on the details of an issue, we don't see how it fits into the puzzle. And when you take a step back to the next largest context, you might see something that you missed before. Now, asking why questions is also a useful tool to try to expand the landscape of solutions for your problems. I have a friend who was having trouble waking up to their 8 a.m. classes. When confronted by authority about this problem, they answered with, "I'll just wake up early, I'll just wake up on time." But this doesn't exactly solve the problem. You have to ask the correct questions, because you could say, "Why am I late to class?" "Because I sleep late." But you need to answer that differently. "Why am I late to class?" "Because I go to bed late." "Why do you go to bed late?" "Because you work late, because you don't have the best time management." Now you're close to achieving your goal. One problem that affects basically everyone is stress. And stress can involve and get into every part of your life, your mind, your body, your behavior, if you let it. But the best way to handle stress is to change the way you evaluate experiences and events. For example, let's say a teacher gives back, or your boss gives back a report or an essay or a test covered with red marks. You might get stuck in the mindset that, "I can't do this, this is too much, there are too many problems, I'll have to start all over again, I can't do this." But that's not the way you should think about it. You have to try and think of this as an opportunity. Your teacher or your boss took the time to correct these because they believe that you can do better. You can do this because you've done it before. The mind is so powerful, and you can't continue to think in a string of negative thoughts, because as an effect, you'll end up with negative consequences. A few years ago, I was living in a townhouse with my family. And one day, we came home and found out that our house was on fire. And this was very upsetting, because the fire had started under the floorboards, which meant that if we had stayed home from church that day, we would have either been burned alive in our sleep or been trapped in the flames. And as you might know, that's incredibly scary, but this isn't a lecture on waking up on time for work or school. I had a problem. I didn't want to be the victim, I wanted to be the victor. And to do this, I had to change how I evaluated this event. I didn't want this to become a wall in my life. And when the firefighters were done doing their job, fighting fires, they let my family go through the house and try to find anything that was left over. And I found out that my memory box, that was still charred and burned a bit, but what was inside was still good and content. And I was so thankful and felt so blessed to have my family and that box with me that it didn't matter that my house had burned down. It didn't matter that everything else was gone, because you have to want to change your outlook on the life you live. And tonight, I invite you to do that. I invite you to enhance your social dynamics, your conversations, your academic career, your professional career. I invite you to change the way you live your life by changing your perspective and how you want to live your life. I invite you to experience the entire elephant. Thank you.